What is really going on at Yellowstone National Park? In today's episode, we're going over first-hand encounters with people just like you who have submitted their encounters via email. The email's below in the description if you'd like to share any encounter you've had at a national or state park. Yellowstone National Park has over 2 million acres of wildlife, and thousands of people visit the park every day during the summer months. From geothermal features to majestic wildlife, there is something for everyone at Yellowstone. But what about these sightings of creatures that resemble giant wolves? These encounters happen throughout the park. Yes, I said giant wolves. When Yellowstone was established in 1872, gray wolves were present, and they were eradicated in 1926. In 1995, park rangers began reintroducing Canadian gray wolves into the park in an attempt to reestablish them into the Yellowstone ecosystem. It is believed that there are now around 500 wolves in the park, all which started from an initial 41 wolves that were released. But what about these reports of giant wolves? Here are a few encounters that people have had while staying at the park. August 2nd, 2016. My friend Adam and I took our 10th trip to Yellowstone to go hiking. We try to go at least 3 to 4 times each year because we only live a few hours away. We both work in IT for the same company and we're both avid hikers. This was our 3rd year in a row that we went to Yellowstone. We had hiked all afternoon and drove to our campsite on Yellowstone Lake. We pitched our tent, had a little dinner, and I remember the day being really clear at first, but a few drops of rain came right after dinner. And then within an hour, the whole area was getting pelted. So we gathered up our bags, all of our stuff, and threw it into the tent. We sat there for a while listening to the rain come down hard on the walls of the tent. Then we heard some booms of thunder not that far off, and we knew we were in for a hell of a night. We lay down to go to sleep, but the storm was intense. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it before or since. The cracks came so fast and so close together, and they seemed to stay overhead for so long. At some point, I said to Adam, I gotta see this. So I stuck my hat on, put my hood up, and unzipped the flap just enough to squeeze my head out. Every time the lightning flashed, it was like the entire forest was just as bright as daytime. I could see everything in all black and white. And as I looked off to where the lake was, I saw something standing near the tree line, just staring at me. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me because the way the lightning was flashing, there were shadows everywhere. But as the lightning struck each and every time, the same thing was there. I got the chills because something about it didn't seem right. It looked like some kind of large wolf, but the odd thing is it wasn't on all fours, it was upright. And the legs, I remember they looked like they were bent backwards at the knee. And I just froze there, watching this thing between flashes watching me. During one long flash, this thing had been standing there and without moving took this impossibly long step towards me, and I dove back into the tent. Adam thought I was crazy. He was like, "What in the hell is wrong with you?" I told him, "There is something out there. Look for yourself. There's some giant wolf down there towards the lake." He stuck his head out of the tent, and another flash of lightning came, but Adam didn't see anything. It must have taken off. Anyways, I barely slept that night. I was so exhausted on the hike the following day. I don't know what it was, but I never want to see anything like that again. Adam thought I was joking with him, and he still teases me to this day about it, but I know what I saw. I started researching what this thing could have been when I got home, and I came across some information about a dog man. I don't know. I don't want to believe in this kind of thing, but after I saw it that night, I'm not so sure. Maybe there's something out there in the forest that we don't know about. Maybe it was just a really big wolf, but whatever it is, I'll never forget it. The weird thing is ever since that trip, I have these strange dreams about the thing, and it's always the same too. It's like I'm back there in the tent looking out just before it takes that giant step towards me, but then I wake up right before it gets me. June 2013. My wife and I went camping at Yellowstone in the summer of 2013. We're from Nashville, and this was our first time at Yellowstone National Park. We spent the day at Mammoth Hot Springs, and then we stayed at Indian Creek Campground. After the hot springs, we picked up some food to cook for dinner, and we went out for a walk after dinner, and then we were in bed by 9 p.m. We were sitting in the tent, and I wanted to double check that I didn't leave anything out on the picnic table, so I took my lantern, unzipped the tent, and did a quick scan of the area to make sure nothing was left for the wildlife. I didn't want any surprise visitors in the night. When I turned to go back to the tent, I see this grizzly coming out of the woods about 20 yards from where our tent was. I ran back to the tent, yelled to my wife that there was a bear coming, and she started freaking out. We could hear the bear rummaging around our campsite. I unzipped the flap so slowly, just enough to get my eye to look out, and I saw the bear sniffing around our cooler. I didn't want to make any sudden movements or noises, so I just slowly zipped up the tent and was sitting there as quiet as possible. The bear finally got tired of sniffing around and ventured back into the woods. It was a close call and I was terrified. I know this isn't a creepy encounter or anything, but it was pretty terrifying for us. August 26, 2014. My wife and I took a 3-day trip to Yellowstone, and we were staying at the Lake Yellowstone Hotel. It was our first time at Yellowstone, and we were enjoying the trip. We had just finished dinner, and we were heading towards our room. We wanted to get to bed early because we wanted to get an early start to the next day. Old Faithful was first on our agenda, and it's about an hour drive from where we were staying. As we were getting ready for bed, this was about 8:30 at night, I looked out the window and I see this elk running across the field. I'm thinking that's kind of strange because it's pretty dark out. And then I see something else running behind the elk. I couldn't tell what it was, but it looked big. I woke my wife up and said, "Honey, come take a look at this." She got out of bed and came to the window. I pointed out what I saw, and we just stood there watching this thing chase the elk across the field. We couldn't tell what was chasing it, but it was on all fours. And the strangest thing is it went up on 2 legs and then lunged at this elk right before it reached the tree line. I was dumbfounded and turned and looked at my wife, and we both just stood there looking at each other, questioning what we just saw. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. July 9th, 2017. My wife and I were recently married, and we both love the outdoors, so we decided to pass on the island getaway honeymoon and go to Yellowstone National Park instead. We're from Boise, Idaho, which is about 6 hours from the park, so we decided to rent an RV from Diamond Peak in Boise for the week. We were staying at the Fishing Bridge RV Park and had just finished dinner, and we were getting ready to hang out for a bit. We had met several other campers while staying at the RV park. It was about 9:30 p.m. when we were walking down to our friend's campsite. And as we were walking, we heard something running towards us from the woods. It looked like a person running, but then it jumped out of the woods, and I could see it was some sort of animal. It looked like a cross between a bear and a wolf. The animal just stood there at us and had this foul odor. My wife grabbed me so tight that her nails were digging into the side of my arm. I yelled, "Get out of here!" And this thing didn't budge. So I yelled again, "Go on, get out of here!" Then someone else from the campground heard the commotion and yelled, "Is everything all right?" I yelled back, "Get over here and take a look at this thing." Right as the other camper was approaching, this thing turned around and ran on all fours into the woods. The other camper saw it take off into the woods. We ended up getting together that night with our friends and several other campers who heard the commotion. That's all anyone could talk about. That was the only incident during the entire week. Other than that, we had a great trip, but I know there's something out there.